Around 1345 AD, Ibn Battuta, a famous Muslim explorer from Morocco, landed on the east coast of Sumatra. Samudera Pasai. In his travel notes, Ibn Battuta described Samudera Pasai as a very beautiful big city, surrounded by wooden walls and towers. Trade in the area was also very advanced, marked by the use of gold currency. However, what amazed the explorer even more was the figure of the leader who at that time ruled Samudra Pasai, Sultan Malakul Dar. In the story of his journey to Pasai, Ibn Battuta described Sultan Malakul Dar as a king who was very pious, generous, humble, and had concern for the poor. Although he has conquered many kingdoms, Malakul Dar has never been arrogant. His humility was shown by the king when welcoming Ibn Battuta's entourage. His guests were invited to sit on a stretch of cloth, while he immediately sat down on the ground without any ground. The long journey of Ibn Battuta. The story of the generosity of the ruler of Samudra Pasai is one of the many stories from countries that Ibn Battuta visited on his travels. Launching history, Ibn Battuta spent half of his life wandering around the Earth's eastern hemisphere. Sometimes he followed groups of camels, other times he boarded ships, and it was not uncommon for Ibn Battuta to walk to reach his destination. For 29 years, Ibn Battuta has traveled to more than 40 countries. The stories of his journey were later written into a book called Rihla. For many historians, the Rihla has become a source of knowledge about what life was like in the 14th century. Initially leaving for Hajj, Ibn Battuta was born in Tangier, Morocco, to a respected and educated family. In 1325 AD, when he was 21 years old, he left his hometown for Mecca to perform the Hajj as well as to study Islam more deeply. I started the journey alone, without any fellow travelers to accompany me or a caravan of merchants where I could find joy, said Ibn Battuta, describing the story of the beginning of his journey in the Rihla. However, within me resides an extraordinary passion, which drives me to continue to walk towards the Holy Land, he wrote. At the beginning of the journey, Ibn Battuta rode his donkey alone. However, when he arrived in North Africa, he met another group that was also going to perform the Hajj. On his way to Mecca, he made several stops in Egypt to study Islamic law and to explore the cities of Alexandria and Cairo, which he described as beautiful and magnificent. Exploring Muslim lands, Ibn Battuta then continued his journey to Mecca and performed the Hajj. His journey could have stopped there, but after performing the Hajj, Ibn Battuta decided to explore other Muslim countries. Ibn Battuta stated that he made this decision after having a dream in which he was carried flying to the east by a giant bird and abandoned there. A scholar then translated the meaning of the dream to Ibn Battuta. He said the dream meant that Ibn Battuta would go explore the earth around the world. After deciding to visit every country inhabited by Muslims, Ibn Battuta spent most of his life traveling. With a caravan of merchants, he traveled to Persia and Iraq, then visited what is now Azerbaijan. From there, he continued on to Mogadishu and then continued his adventures in Kenya and Tanzania. He then continued on to Turkey and finally arrived in Constantinople. In that city, Ibn Battuta took the time to visit Hagia Sophia. After several months of stopping in Constantinople, Ibn Battuta continued his journey to India and finally arrived in the city of Delhi in 1334. There, Ibn Battuta got a job as a judge under the leadership of Sultan Muhammad Tufluk. Then, in 1341, the Sultan sent him to China as an envoy. Excited about the task, Ibn Battuta immediately set off with a caravan laden with gifts for the destination country. However, the journey to China was apparently not easy. Ibn Battuta and his entourage encountered a series of difficulties along the way. Having been stranded in the Maldives for a long time due to a storm, Ibn Battuta then continued his journey. He spent some time in Sri Lanka before boarding a merchant ship bound for Southeast Asia. In 1345, after 4 years of leaving India, Ibn Battuta finally set foot on mainland China, to be precise, at the port of Quanzhou. The journey has come to an end. After exploring China, Ibn Battuta finally decided to return to his hometown in Morocco. In 1349, he arrived at his birthplace in Tangier. By that time, both of his parents had died. So that Ibn Battuta only stayed for a while in his hometown before starting his journey to Spain. From Spain, he then traveled on to Timbuktu, which was in the territory of the Mali Empire in the Sahara Desert. Throughout his journey, Ibn Battuta never wrote about the stories or experiences that he had. However, when he returned to Morocco in 1354, the Sultan of that country ordered him to collect stories of his travels. Over the next year, Ibn Battuta spent time dictating his travels to a writer named Ibn Juzai. The result is an oral historical record entitled A Gift to Those Who Contemplate the Wonders of Cities and the Beauty of Traveling, better known as Rihla, which means journey. After the Rihla was completed, Ibn Battuta disappeared from historical records. He is believed to have served as a magistrate in Morocco and died around 1368, but little is known about his end. It seemed that after spending a lifetime on the streets, the great traveler was finally content to stay in one place. Thank you for watching. I hope this knowledge is useful.